Welcome all to this tutorial, and today I've decided to help you all out because I've noticed that a lot of you were struggling with creating a live USB of Kali, and I've noticed that a lot of people have been following a lot of strange guides on the net as well. I can't really blame you for this. I tend to do that as well, but here today I will show you how you can create a bootable USB of Kali and how can it be functional. It's very easy, it's not that hard. I am sure that you will all be able to replicate this procedure. If you have any questions, of course, as always, just go to the Udemy discussions and I'll be happy to help you out any way I can. So first off, I am assuming that you have VirtualBox installed, up and running, that you have guest additions and extensions up and running for VirtualBox. So that is the first assumption that I am making here. Of course, there are other ways to do this. If you already have Kali installed on your machine, that is also fine. But you will need VirtualBox otherwise. So either you have an installed Kali on your physical machine, or you have a virtual machine of Kali within VirtualBox with the extensions and guest additions installed. If you're using VMware, because I've noticed that some people have used VMware, I am not sure why. VirtualBox is free, but you will need to be able to pass that USB to your machine if you want to do this part. So only if you want to create a live USB with persistent storage that is greater than 4 gigabytes, should you watch these tutorials. If you don't care about that, if you don't care about making a bootable USB, feel free to skim through these few tutorials, but I won't be dealing with anything else here. I just want to show you how to create this live USB that you can use. Now let's go about plugging in a USB stick, because I'm assuming that you have one USB stick whose size is greater than 8 gigabytes. Mine is 64, and I would recommend that you have a 301, but if you don't, it's fine. I personally don't have a USB stick that's 30, but if you do, it's not a bad idea to use it because of the speed, and since you will be using it, your system will be a bit faster as well. However, it's not mandatory or anything of a kind. Anyway, let's go ahead and right click on your Kali virtual machine. Keep in mind that my Kali virtual machine is powered off, so yours needs to be powered off for this portion as well. Go into settings, go into USB. I'm just going to go ahead and remove this filter. Select enable USB 2.0 EHCI controller. Just click on this green plus here and find your USB stick. Here is mine. I'm going to say OK. Now I've listed the prerequisites for this, and all of the prerequisites are provided in this course. Just go back a few tutorials and you will find how to install extensions, how to install guest additions, how to install VirtualBox, etc. All of this is provided in the lectures above. So anyway, now that we've passed a USB to the Kali machine, so I have a USB stick plugged into my physical machine, and now I have just passed it to Kali machine, virtual machine, from my physical machine. And now I will start Kali. So let's go ahead and start it. Oh, okay. This is from my previous settings. Never mind. Forget that you saw this. Erase it from your minds. Let's go ahead and start it. There we go. It's booting, so press enter here. Let's go. Okay, well, the boot time is usually not the fastest. That's why I like to boot the machine and start a tutorial, but here in this particular case it was kind of difficult. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead and start with this in a moment. Now keep in mind, even though this procedure should be valid to do from other operating systems, like from Fedora. When I repeated the same procedure from Fedora, it didn't work. So that was painful. And I couldn't figure it out. Why wouldn't it work? Because the procedure is pretty much exactly the same on Kali as well. But it just didn't work, and yeah. The guide, the method that I've chosen to use for this particular tutorial is the method that is posted on the official Kali website. And here I will show you. You can follow it through as well, so you can use it as a reference point. And I'm gonna go, and there you go. So I think this is the one. Okay, so over here on this website, you just type in making a here, let me just show you. Applications, accessories, leaf path, come on, there we go. Should really install gedit or something like that. Okay, hopefully you can see the address, and it's listed right here. The method is pretty simple. I didn't show it for long, but I mean, if you want to retype it, pause the video, or you can just use a search engine and type in how to create a bootable USB of Kali and then just select the official website. Not a big deal. I personally think that's a far easier method. Anyway, over here you have a guide. We will be using DD. And yeah, there we go. So this is the command that we are going to need, and this is quite literally it. But before we actually can use this command, we needed to pass the USB to the virtual machine and something like that. And you see here it says you need to first figure out what the name of it is. I will explain this in greater detail. No worries there. But you see, this is it, quite literally. Other ones are for other machines. So you see, this is for how to do it in Windows. But personally, the method that I'm using can be used in any system as long as you have VirtualBox and Kali installed in it. So it's pretty simple. So this is all. This is the entire guide for doing it in Linux. So this is the whole guide. If you have a virtual machine on Mac OS X or on a Windows, you can still follow the same method. You can still do the same thing that I'm doing. If you don't really feel like doing what I'm doing now, you can go ahead and follow one of these other two guides. I really haven't tested them out at all, as I see this as a more universal way of doing things. Because in the previous tutorials, most of you have tried to install VirtualBox and have already installed Kali in it, and so on and so forth. So I think this method will cover the largest possible audience. Before we begin, let me just clear out a few things. This method that I'm going to use works for Kali within Kali. So you need to do this from Kali, and you need to create a Kali with this method, bootable USB. I have tried to do the same thing for some other distros. I haven't tried any other Debian-based distros, though. I have tried with Fedora or something of a kind. It didn't work. So I don't know why. I didn't really investigate to the largest of extents, but it just failed. So I can't guarantee that it will work. Maybe for you it will with other distributions, but I don't know. There are no guarantees. If, however, you would like me to do a demonstrations on how to create live USBs with persistence with some other Linux distributions, such as Ubuntu or Fedora or I don't know, CentOS or Linux Mint or something of a kind, just let me know in the discussion sections. Just ask it of me, and I'll see what I can do. Those videos are relatively simple to do, so I will do them for you. I will try to find a most universal way of doing it, but you can, for example, ask of me, you could say, hey, Ermin, I would like you to show me how can I do this from Windows, or hey, Ermin, I know that you're running Fedora as your main system, but I would really like you to show me how to do this from Ubuntu, like how to create a live live USB of Mint from Ubuntu. So you just specify what you want, specify from which operating system you want me to do this, and you have 99% chance that I will do it, that I will provide you with videos. I can't guarantee that it will be within a couple of hours, but I will provide it, no worries. Also, you cannot ask me to do this from a Mac, because I don't have a Mac, I don't have OS X, and I really can't do it. But this procedure that I'm using now, if you have a virtual box within Mac, it will work for Kali. If you need advice, feel free to ask it of me in the discussion section. And again, just one more time before we proceed, if you want a different setup, if you want to create a live USB of a different distro from a different environment, just ask it of me in the discussions, and I will most likely be able to provide you with those videos. Anyway, I wanted to make that point rather clear. So let us begin. Open up a terminal. Let me just zoom it in as before. I'm going to go ahead and expand it and type in SU. Well, you don't have to type in SU if you're root already. Clear. Now what you will need for this tutorial as well will be a Kali Linux image. I'm guessing that you don't have it downloaded within your virtual machine. So go ahead and download it. Type in Kali. Well, just Kali, I guess. Okay, so downloads, and go ahead and download one of these two. So one of the two first ones, either direct ISO or the torrent. So if you're doing this in Linux, you can also check the SHA-1 sum, which is fairly simple to do. Here, let me just go ahead and show you how you check the SHA sums to verify that your download is correct. So I've already conducted the download. I already have an image here. You see it says Kali Linux blah 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 something. All I have to do is type in SHA-1 sum Kali Linux, and then I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna put this in a file called test. Now this command will use this file, and it will create the SHA-1, and it will generate the SHA-1 sum, and then we will be able to compare it with this one. If they match, it is exactly the same file. If they do not match, your download is corrupt. Simply go and download again. This might take a bit of time. Nothing too long though, nothing too long, but it might take a little bit of time. Very important to verify that your downloads are correct, especially when doing this method, because you can have a corrupt download, and then you can attempt to create a bootable USB like 50 times, and none of those 50 times will work, because you won't get any error messages and you simply won't be able to boot. Okay, so we've done that. Let's go ahead and cat out test, and you see we got this SHA sum for this file. Okay, so how do we compare it to this file here? Well, you could of course put one file next to another, and then you could look at the numbers and letters, but yeah, let's not do that. Let's cat out test and grep the exact pattern. So if we can grep the exact pattern, it means that they match, and they do match. So the download is correct. Excellent. So now that we have that sorted out, let's go ahead and use fdisk-l. Okay, so the last one, SDB, that's my USB, and for you it will most likely be the same name, SDB. Keep in mind that whatever you have on your USB will be destroyed, gone permanently, no more. Just go ahead and purify it. Let's go ahead and type in fdisk dev SDB one. Thank you. Delete. partition 1 empty type. Okay, so delete 2, partition number 2, delete, selected partition 3, delete, no partition is defined yet. Excellent. So right table has now been altered. Okay, so the kernel still uses the old table. Let's reload it. Warning, unable to open. Okay, who cares about that? That's not a problem. By the way, SR0 is the CD drive. I couldn't care less about that for the time being. Partition 3 on devsdb have been written, but we were unable to inform the kernel of the change, probably because it is in use. Okay, so apparently it's in use. Never mind. Let's go ahead and then use gparted. So these are also some of the problems that you will encounter, even though I have conducted test runs. That is why I actually have those partitions set up on the USB drive as they are. Excellent. So gparted actually sees that we have deleted pretty much everything there, which is very nice. And we're going to go ahead and close gparted because we don't need it, and type in fdisk-l and sdb. Excellent. So we have we no longer see the partitions because there are no partitions, and says devsdb. So my drive is 64 gigabytes, but I can only utilize 62.5. Oh well, not a huge loss. Now all that we need to do is type in dd space if, meaning input file, equals, and then we're gonna go ahead and go to the ISO image. So home test. Now please keep in mind your path may differ from mine. Figure out where your download is. It's probably in the downloads folder of the current user. So my current user is test. Your current user can be root or something like that. Please keep that in mind. Type in Kali. There you go. And then let's go ahead and type in output file. So OF equals dev sdb space BS equals 5112K. So that's the writing speed. You can actually increase this to reduce the amount of time needed, but the bigger the writing speed, the less time you need, but the bigger the chance of an error. So keep that in mind. I don't know, on the forums and elsewhere they say that DD is not actually a viable way to do this because of possible errors, but a moment ago I've actually tested it out, and I have invested time and effort to test out a lot of other methods as well, and I really did find that this one is pretty much the easiest and the most universal. Now I'm going to go ahead and press enter now, and this is going to start, and because this is a virtual machine, this can take quite a while. I mean, significant amount of time. I think it took like 15 minutes or something like that the last time I ran the command, and I'm running slowly out of time here. But before I run out of time, let's look at it this way. You cannot see any progress bar, status bar here. However, if you take a look at your USB, and if it has any sort of flashing lights on it, as long as it is flashing, an operation is being performed. That USB device is being utilized, something is being done with it. Most likely the DD is writing files to it. So don't worry, just let it run, let it complete its cycle, don't interrupt it, just let it finish until the end, no big deal. Go have a cup of coffee or something. Anyway, I'm gonna call the tutorial here, and I'll come back when it's done in part 2. Until then, I bid you all farewell.